Joining us via Skype is political expert and journalist Javier Farje. Javier, now we know that King Felipe VI will take a 20% cut in salary, but the overall budget for the monarchy will remain the same. So what is the new king hoping to prove here?
Well, actually, it's obviously a public relations exercise. As your reporter said, rightly so, some of the what they call representation expenditure remains the same and has increased. That means that if you put into balance the money that the monarchy is going to receive in the budget, not much has changed. But it's public effect. If you have a king saying, I'm going to reduce my salary by 20%, that sounds pretty good as a PR exercise, a PR stunt. But obviously, the fact of the matter is, as your reporter said, the new king wants to restore the confidence people had in the monarchy before, which was tarnished by, again, as your reporter informed, the hunting, expedition of the former king in Botswana in 2012, and only last December, the king's sister, Christina, has been indicted for alleged fraud together with her husband, Iñaki Urdangarin. That has been very damaging because at the beginning, nobody knew whether she was going to be part of the whole process. So obviously, the King Felipe wants to clean the image of the monarchy. But we mustn't forget something else. The emergence of Podemos, this new left-wing party that is riding high in the opinion polls, he needs to get the confidence of this new movement, which is questioning the actual establishment of which the monarchy is part. So Podemos could cause a lot of trouble if they manage to get into power, if they continue to be at the top of the opinion polls, and they may question the very existence of the monarchy, because we must not forget that Podemos has a very sort of strong Republican sort of element. So all these things, the king knows that the monarchy is not spectacularly popular these days. Yes, the popularity has gone up a bit with him, but the honeymoon might end soon. So we mustn't, they cannot get complacent about this. But obviously this reduction in the salary of the king is obviously a public relations exercise.
Now we know that the popularity rating of the Spanish monarchy has been low for some time. So can King Felipe revive its image, by a 20% reduction in salary?
Not really. Well, I mean, Spain is out of recession now. So if he had reduced his salary in the middle of recession, it would have had an effect. But because Spain is out of recession, to have this reduction is very much like tokenism in many ways. Now, when you compare the salary that he earns with the salary of a normal Spaniard, there's still a huge gap there. And people see that as a sign that the monarchy is not in tune with the rest of the people are sort of going through. At the end of the day, we mustn't forget that even though Spain is out of recession, the quality of life and the last salaries are very low. So if you compare the salary of a normal Spaniard with the salary of the king, people will think, it hasn't gone this far. But of course, the king is traveling between a rock and a hard place, because he cannot reduce his expenditure by much more. But also people are not foolish enough to believe that everything is okay, because if all the expenditure remains the same or even higher than before, people will say, yes, you have reduced your salary, but you're still spending a lot of money in representations and trips, in other sort of, other elements of the work the monarchy does, and that will not go down well. So it's not enough to reduce your salary by 20%, obviously, if your budget is still very much high compared to the kind of money that other people receive for the jobs in Spain.
Now, this is a very different time for Spain, as you've mentioned. They're in economic recovery, and Podemos has a very huge following. Is this the beginning of the end for the Spanish monarchy?
I think it's a bit too early to say. Let's see how long the honeymoon lasts. Let's see how Podemos, if they manage to get into power, if they remain at the top of the opinion polls and they win the next election, let's see how they will deal with the monarchy. We mustn't forget that in the past, there's been a reduction of the budget of the monarchy. In 2010, there was a reduction of the budget for the monarchy, and that didn't change things. It depends whether Podemos gets into power and how they are going to deal with the monarchy. So that would be interesting to see whether they are going to take a radical agenda in relation to the monarchy. I think it's a bit too early to say that it's the beginning of the end, but people no longer trust the monarchy the way they used to, and that is not a good sign for the new king.
Journalist and political expert Javier Farje, thank you very much for joining us today.